Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Samantha Anderson. I am a freelance artist and teacher hoping to inspire creativity. If you would like more videos like these, please take a second to like and subscribe down below. It really helps in the algorithm of YouTube to help get my videos seen to more people. If you want to receive notifications of when I go live, please make sure to hit the bell and choose all notifications. If you have any questions during or after the class, make sure to pop a comment down below and I will answer it as soon as I can. If interested in learning more about my classes, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And feel free to check me out on Patreon, where I teach exclusive classes to those who support me. In Patreon, I also give traceables for all of my live classes, including this one. Lastly, if you would like to share your work after class with me and others who painted along with us, please head over to Facebook, as I have an artist community where you can share your finished painting with us. I'll leave links for all of that in the description box below. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to another live tutorial. I am super excited for this one. I love the colors in this one. Just all of the pretty stars and clouds, so I'm excited to dive in with this one. So if you are new to the channel, make sure to give a like down below, leave a comment to let me know if this is your first time painting with us, especially if you're painting live. If you're here with me live, then say hello. But yeah, I'm excited to get painting. I don't think we've done anything like this. We've done a lot of star paintings, but nothing really with stars and clouds and beach, so that's something a little bit new. So yeah, I do have a traceable. It's very simplistic. I was gonna go all out and do all of the clouds, but the clouds are really, they can be any shape, so I didn't want to confine your own creativity with putting it on a traceable. So the traceable this week is really simplistic. It's really just to get the spacing between the moon and the water and the sand. But if you don't feel like you need that, that is totally okay. You do not need the traceable with any of my classes. You don't need the traceable in order to paint with us, but for those who feel like they would like it, it is in my Patreon. I'll post the link down below. It should be a pinned comment, as well as it's in the description. And with that, you'll also get access to all of my live class traceables here on YouTube in the $5 tier. Any tutorial that I've ever painted for my YouTube tutorials, all of the traceables are in there, so you'll get access to everything, as well as this is kind of the beginning of the month, so it's a perfect time to join, because you'll also get 2 weeks from now I'm doing another class, and you will also get the traceable for that one, so it's kind of a win-win. And you get to support the channel, so it's a win-win-win. But yeah, I always thank you guys for supporting the channel and becoming patrons. Even if you're only there for a month, it still helps me and my family. And it helps keep these classes free on YouTube. Okay, so that's kind of that. So that's the traceable. Again, if you don't feel like you need it, that's totally fine. You can still become part of the Patreon community if you would like to, but no pressure. Let's go ahead and go over some other supplies. I have an 11 by 14 stretched canvas. I have 2 waters, and that's just so that I can have some clean water if I need it without going back to the sink. I have my glass palette, my palette knife, as well as a little scraper that I can clean off if I need to. And then I also have some paper towels. The brushes that I will be using today, I have a large filbert, a medium to small size filbert, a couple round brushes. One is pointed, one is round. I use them for different things. I also have a liner brush for the small details. If we decide to put any small details in there, I like to have it just in case. And then probably the most important brush you will need for this class is a cloud brush. I also call it my texture brush or my dry brushing brush, but texture brush or cloud brush works fine, because dry brushing brush is quite a mouthful. So it's technically, it's just a round brush. For those of you who want to know what it is, it's literally just a round brush. You can see that it's fairly frayed. The bristles do not keep their shape, and that is okay. That's kind of the point of this brush, and you're gonna want to get a brush that you don't mind getting a little bit damaged, because it helps blend everything together, and it helps put on these clouds in a very cloud-like manner. We do a dry brushing for our clouds. Some of them we can add in the background during the background stage, during the sky stage. So we will be adding some while we're doing the background, but other ones that are a little bit closer and have more depth and more contrast, we're going to be adding after the background dries. So just keep that in mind. You are going to need a round brush that you don't really care about, okay? I mean, that's I don't want to say you don't care about it, because I care deeply about this brush because I use it all the time for all of my dry brushing and all of my texture and all of my clouds. I love this brush. I use it for a lot of things. Anytime I need to do any sort of blending, when it's not wet on wet, I will use this brush, and I feel confident knowing that I'm not going to ruin any of my other brushes, because I have this one brush to as my go-to brush for that. But yeah, those are the brushes. We're going to kind of figure out what colors we want for the background. If you're kind of a minimalistic person and you only have a couple colors on you, I would say, literally all you need for this is black, white, and then your primary colors being red, yellow, and probably a phthalo blue. Phthalo blue has a little bit more of that tealish green color in it versus an ultramarine has a cooler color, and there's a lot of warm blues in this. So if you are going to only have those simplistic colors, I would highly recommend having a phthalo blue versus an ultramarine blue. Now with that said, I highly recommend grabbing potentially one of your teals for this. And I have a couple different colors that I haven't decided which one I'm going to use. So I got them both out. One is a little bit more of a teal, another one's more of a turquoise. So one's more green, one's more blue. I might mix them a little bit together. But again, if you only have the primary colors, you can still create a beautiful kind of bluish green sky. It just might look a little bit different than mine. So I have a bright aqua green, and this is lake blue. These are actually, this one is Master's Touch, which I believe is Hobby Lobby brand. And then this one is actually, I've been using this one for a very long time. I don't use it very often, but I love the color. It's actually from Art District, which if you'll remember is actually an Aaron Brothers brand, which got absorbed a few years back by Michael. So Michael's might carry this specific color, but if you have something similar, don't break the bank. Don't go out and get the specific color that I use. Just whatever tealish turquoise color you have is gonna work fine. And if you don't have either one of these colors, the next best thing that I would suggest is getting a bright green. Having a bright green will really up the vibrancy of your green, and you could probably make this bright teal green with phthalo blue and a bright green if you wanted, maybe a little bit of white. So there's options you have here to make that kind of bright, pretty color. Okay, so with that said, I have these blues. I'm gonna decide kind of on the fly which one I want to use, because I don't know, I'm an artist and I can do that. I know that's not super helpful if you're trying to prepare, but I just have them off to the side, and I might put them both out and I might only use one, but I'll let you know which one I'm using. I will probably most likely use them both. I'll probably use them both, because if it's on the palette, I will probably use it. Okay, and then the other colors, I have my black, my white, and my raw umber off to the side. Those are my staples. I use them in every class. So yeah, I have those three, and then all of the other colors that I use are Hippie Crafter brand, which do come in the bottles. Please don't get soft body acrylics, or don't mistake these for soft body acrylics. These are full body thick acrylic paints. Just because they're in the bottle does not mean they are soft body craft acrylics that you normally find in the craft store. These are full body professional acrylics. I like to just put that disclaimer so that you're not confused when yours pours out and mine blops out. they are different. And if you are using craft acrylics, that is totally fine. Your paint is just going to be thinner than mine. So if I add water to my paint, don't add water to yours, because it's going to thin it out even more. And you're already probably going to have to do more coats of paint and let it dry in between coats because of that thinner consistency. So just keep that in mind if you are using a different viscosity, a different type of paint than me, okay? Other colors so I have my blues off to the side, I have my black, white, and raw umber, and then I'm going to have out my yellow, and I'm actually gonna grab a little bit of a pink rather than an orange, because I feel like the pink tones, it's a little bit more pink than it is orange, and it's not as red. I feel like the tone is gonna be like the kind of pinky orange. But yeah, you can also change the colors in this. Like if you want more pink, I think that would actually be really pretty. I might put a little bit more pink than in the reference photo. Make it your own, and just have fun, okay? That is pretty much it. The bottom colors are gonna be like your yellows and whites, grays, and browns. So yeah, that's pretty much it with your colors. So I'll go over that real fast. I have both my teal and turquoise blues, my black, white, and raw umber, that's just a dark brown, and then my pink and my yellow. Okay, and this is a pretty bright pink, it's rose. Not quite, it's not as bright, it's just kind of, my camera is very, very bright when it comes to this. So that's kind of closer to the color. So these are the colors. Much more bright here. So my lighting is better, but sometimes it makes it too bright. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and draw out where I want everything, and then from there I'll go on to some announcements, some other things that we're painting over on Patreon. Not last week, but 2 weeks, our last class here on YouTube, and then we'll get to painting. I'm really excited about my Patreon classes this month, because we painted a dog, which was a reference photo from a Patreon. I did a Patreon class and a Patreon pet portrait kind of contest thing over in Patreon, and so the class was actually of somebody in Patreon. It was a class that was, the reference photo was their photo. So that's really cool. So I'm excited to share that. So I'm gonna grab just a little bit of white, black, and my light blue, just to add a tiny bit of color. And I am going to mix up just with a little bit of my palette knife. I typically use my palette knife mostly for mixing colors. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of white, a tiny bit of black to gray it out, and then a little bit of blue. And it should come out to like a very light grayish blue. And we'll use that for our where we want things. And it needs to be only dark enough so that as you can see it. Any darker and it's just something that you're gonna have to cover up later. So yeah, I'm gonna grab one of my small round brushes, get it wet, dab it off, and I'm gonna grab some of this paint, maybe a little bit more water in here. Whenever I'm putting a brush into my paint, I tend to, most of the time, I tend to get it wet and then kind of dry it off a little bit, because if after you are done washing your brushes, if there's any paint left in it, it's going to kind of stick the bristles together, and you don't want to go straight into your paint. You want to get it wet because it'll loosen up those bristles and allow you to actually paint better. So I will typically get it wet and then kind of break up the bristles, if it is like that. It doesn't happen very often, but sometimes with the thicker brushes, and then I'll dab it off kind of to get all the water off. I don't typically ever go from the water straight to my paint unless I'm specifically adding water to my my color. So for instance, when I just did that, I went into my water and then my paper towel, before I mixed the paint, realized I needed a bit more water, and then I went into the water. I don't typically go straight into the water, because what happens when you add water and you're not trying to add water, and then it's too translucent, it's too watery. In this stage of the game, it is totally okay if it's a little bit on the watery side, because it's okay if it's translucent, because we're gonna go over it anyways. So I'm gonna figure out where my horizon is. If you tend to be someone who is really bad at straight lines, grab yourself a ruler. Don't kill yourself trying to get a straight line. If you need to grab a tool, some tape, or ruler, something else to help you get a straight line, that is totally fine. Don't feel bad for that. Everybody has different talents, and straight lines, you know, it's hard. And sometimes it's just practice. Sometimes I can get a better straight line if I go straight down. I can get a different viewpoint, a different vantage point, and that can be helpful. Okay, so this is about where it's at. I'm gonna go over the top here to indicate that this is kind of where the C is. So the top of the C technically needs to be a little bit straighter than the other line. So if you need to take a little bit more time to get a straight line, that's fine. But again, this is only our first kind of coat of paint. So if it's not perfect, that is okay, and there's going to be plenty of opportunity to kind of fix the colors and fix any lines that need fixing. If you're gonna mess up, this is definitely the time to do it. And it's all a learning process, so even if you do mess up later, that's totally fine. It's all a learning process. I'm gonna go over the edge with this. Okay, so now I'm just gonna take a brush so I can make sure that this is like the same height. My eyes are bugging. I feel like it's straight, but then I put this on it and it's not. Yeah. All right. And again, if it's not perfect, that's okay, but you can take a little bit of time to fix any angles. Okay, so at this point I'm just being a perfectionist, and it doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be this detailed because it's just the background. Okay. All right, so now we kind of have where we're gonna put things. My moon is about center. So I'm just going to put about where it is so that when I'm coming over it, I'll be able to kind of see roughly where I want it. And you don't have to do this because you can always change your mind, right? Okay. And anything else that you want to put in, you can put in other stuff like some of these clouds, but I would recommend just kind of waiting on that. So while you guys figure out that and finish that, I'm going to go over just a few classes that we've done over the last couple weeks, and then we'll get to painting, okay? So this we did 2 weeks ago. This is a free class over on my YouTube. So if you're painting with this one and you like it, you like the whole stars and kind of sunsets, this one was really fun. I love the colors. It was so weird painting it because we painted with like purples and browns, and those colors aren't usually, usually don't paint those colors together. But it came out so pretty and I love it. So yeah, if you would like to go paint that one with me, again, this one is free on YouTube. And if you become a patron, if you become a patron for the traceables, you will also get access to the traceable for this class. Okay. Over in Patreon, like I was saying before, we did a pet portrait of actually one of my patrons' pictures, and this is the little cutie that we painted. Look how cute! I love how he came out, and very, very cute. So if you would like to get some tips and tricks on how to paint your own pet portrait, I do give some tips in this class on how to do that. So yeah, if you would like to paint this will actually be coming out on Friday, like this Friday. So it's technically not available yet. It'll be available on Friday. So follow me over on Facebook and you'll get notified of when it goes out. And I'm excited to see your painting. And if you decide to paint your own pet, I can't wait to see that too. And then over, and that's at the magenta $10 tier. So that's where I do the Friday tutorials. You get an exclusive class every month. And sometimes I do polls and other contests to help with those classes. And then over in the $20 tier, we have our weekly classes where we go week by week, about an hour and 15 minutes. And we paint together a little bit more detailed painting. So this is what we're painting right now. Obviously, it's kind of in the middle stages. We've had 2 sessions already. We've finished the water. We have some lovely reflections. And if you don't know how to do reflections in acrylics, this is also a great class for that, because I do kind of go over the water reflections and just the stages in order to do that. And I'm really excited for our next class because we get to start on our eagle, and I'm so excited for it. So yeah, if you are a patron at the Cobalt level, we will see you next Tuesday. I'm really excited to start on the eagle. So that is kind of the update. That's the update on Patreon and my channel. Let's get back to this class. Let's go ahead and mix our paint for our background. So I already have a little bit of this blue out. I'm gonna go ahead and put out a little bit of this bright aqua green, this kind of more of a teal. Actually, forget, is teal more green or is turquoise more green? I always forget which one's which. This one says bright aqua green, and this says lake blue, so that doesn't really help me. It doesn't help me. I I always thought that they were like almost the same color. I think teal is more green. I could be wrong though. I guess I should probably look it up at some point, but not right now. If anyone wants to give me the answer in the comments, that would be helpful. Okay. And I'm almost out of this other blue here, so I added a little bit more blue here. Kind of spit at me a little bit. And then I have my white, my black, and let's go ahead and grab a little bit of yellow because that's in the background, just a tiny bit. Okay, so now we have that. Let's go ahead and pre-mix our colors. Now, if you've never pre-mixed your colors before, I highly recommend it, especially for beginners and especially for doing the background. I always pre-mix my colors when I'm doing the backgrounds, and when I'm doing something that I need all of the colors to kind of meld together and blend, having these colors already ready to go, ready to grab, especially when you're doing acrylics. With oil, it doesn't really matter because it takes so long to dry. You can mix paint and then put it on and it mixes fine. But with acrylics, because it dries so fast, you have to have things prepared before you start putting anything on the canvas because it dries and then it no longer mixes. That is what we are going to do. So up in this corner, let's start with the darkest color first, because then we can just kind of lighten it up and change the color as we go. So I'm going to make quite a bit. I'm going to get rid of this color right here because I don't need it. I'm not going to use it again, and it's just taking up space. It's one of the things why I love having a glass palette and this little tool, because I can just clean up anything I need to very, very fast, efficient, and even if I'm in the middle of class. All right, I'm gonna grab a lot of this color, a good amount of blue, so maybe 3 parts turquoise, or I mean teal, and then 1 part of the blue. I'm gonna say blue and green. How about that? I'll do 3 parts of the green, 1 part of the blue, a little bit of white, and let's just kind of see where we're at. Okay, it's a little bit on the green side, so I'm going to add more of this blue in here. And then I need to kind of tone down the color just ever so slightly. So because we already have white in this, when we add white and or black to a color, it brings down the vibrancy of it, the saturation, and it makes it a little bit more gray. Now your saturation is on the color to gray scale. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about saturation. So it's just making it a little bit probably more realistic, I would say. Okay, so this is like the brightest color that we have. So I'm gonna put this over on the side, and this is going to be the brightest color. So I probably split it in about half because we're going to be adding more paint to the rest of this, and it will, you'll find out. You'll figure it out. So I did about half. So then I'm going to add a little bit more white to this. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of black to kind of gray it out a little bit. And the black does darken it, so you will need to add more white to it. Okay, this is a pretty good color. So then I'm going to take the rest of this white and put it over here and just mix in a little bit of this kind of grayish blue that we created. So essentially we now have 3 different blues that we can play with. We have a dark blue, a dark vibrant blue, a medium blue, and then a white light blue. And then when we get over here, because we're going to start up right and go left, we'll be adding more white. And then before we get there, before we start that, I'm going to wipe off my palette knife. I'm going to grab just a little bit of this white, and I'm going to add a tiny bit of yellow to it. And maybe the smallest amount of black. And when I say smallest amount, I mean barely any. All right, and that's gonna be our color when we come over here. All right, so let's go ahead and start this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my largest brush, get it wet, and we're gonna try to do this in one coat. Now, I don't want you to be sold on one coat if it's not something that you like. If you would like to, you can do a wash of the colors you think you might use, and then you can come over with a second coat. That's actually really helpful when doing things like this, because you can get more texture in the background if you want, or you can, it's easier to make it smooth. We're gonna kind of just go for it. And considering bluish greens sometimes need a second coat anyways, we'll probably end up doing a second coat and either fixing the colors or keeping the colors the same. Yeah, I can already tell that the amount of paint I have here, it's gonna need a second coat, and that's totally fine. So once I get this, so we'll just plan on doing a second coat. Once I get this corner with that darkest blue, kind of darkest bluish green, I'm going to go in with my medium blue. And that color's actually really close. It's so weird. On canvas, it's practically the same color, but on the palette, it's so different. All right, so I'm gonna come in with my lightest color. So I'm glad we're doing a second coat, because I'll probably need to adjust my colors, which is one of the pluses of doing 2 coats, because you can do that. You're not kind of stuck in one color. So once you do this and you see this line right here, I'm going to, with my brush, I'm going to go up and into it, and I'm going to blend these 2 colors in each other. And then you can go across the whole thing in a couple big strokes. But I'm gonna start putting white on here because it is very, very dark, and it's a lot darker than I anticipated it. So I'm just gonna get out a bunch of white. And I'm just going to, with that white on my brush, I'm just going to mix it in. And because I know that we're doing 2 coats, I don't really need to worry about making it super smooth. I'm still gonna try, but it's not really on my agenda per se, versus just trying to get the colors, more like the contrast of colors correct. So I need to bring up the white a little bit. So I'm gonna bring up the white a little bit this direction. But once it starts drying, you're not really going to be able to blend it anymore, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to go into my white again, and I'm just going to do a big white strip over here. And I'm going to dip a little bit of water so it can kind of blend just a little bit better. So I'm going to go across and blend this in. And I'm going to pull the darkness a little bit over here. And I almost really like the, maybe I'm not going to do a second coat. I really like the texture that we're giving the background of just kind of whimsically putting the paint on here and kind of having that really pretty kind of almost wind texture. It's actually really cool. And once we get the paint on here that has the white in it, white and black have a lot of opacity. So once we started putting the white on there, it started getting really covered and thick. So I almost kind of just like the texture that we're giving it. So I'm just going to keep going, and I think I'm just going to make this our sky. Like, I'm not going to go over it with a second coat because we're going to have so much texture in the sky anyways that I think I really like this. And I'm going to put in some clouds, some kind of white down here, and I'm going to rinse out my brush so there's no blue in it, at least not that I can help. I'm going to go in with this white sky. And I'm going to put a little bit of this yellow at the bottom here. Just kind of blend that in a bit. I'm going to put some of the other clouds in here that are kind of blend it a little bit. And just very gently put them in here and allow them to blend into the background. Kind of just whimsically putting some of this in. Remember, it doesn't have to look exactly like the reference. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of a darker bit up here. And I kind of come in with a little bit of a darker in the corner. Just a little bit more of that color. And I'm just going to kind of blend it in, barely touching the canvas. And that kind of helps that. All right, actually I really like that. All right. Since we're not doing 2 coats, at least I'm not doing 2 coats, if you need to let it dry, you can either go grab a hair dryer or something like that and do a second coat. If you're like me and you like it and you don't want to do a second coat, that is totally fine. With the remaining paint that I have, because I did make enough to do 2 coats, I'm going to use that extra paint to create the bottom portion of this. So I'm going to be adding black to my my teal color. And it's gonna create a really pretty, like, dark teal color. And we're gonna see how this looks on here. I'm just taking my time, making sure that that top layer is as straight as I can. Alright, so that's pretty good, and then I'm going to take some of this lighter medium blue and put it on the bottom half. And once that dries, we'll add some waves. And just with another clean brush, I'm kind of just taking off some of that blue to kind of sharpen up the edge coming down. So I think it's supposed to be a little bit thinner. Alright, while this all dries, because we do want our background to be fully dry before we add our clouds, let's go ahead and do our bottom part, and then we'll go back up top. So let's get out our brown. And it does this, I realize that my camera does this anytime I paint something blue. It turns up the pink and makes it like more blue than green, so my hands are gonna be pink. So it's gonna like adjust. It's gonna adjust to my hands, and then the canvas will be actually the color that it's supposed to be. A little bit more green. So let me see if I can adjust my camera right now, because the auto adjust on it just changes everything, and it looks blue on camera, but in person it's much more of that teal green color. So let me see what I can do here to kind of help that portion of it. Give me 1 second. Okay, it's better, but it's still, I don't know why. I don't know why it does that, guys. That's okay. Oh well, it's better than it was. Okay, we tried. Okay, let's continue. Let's go ahead and make our sandy color. Now this color is going to be our brown, some yellow, some black, and some white. So let's see, it's mostly brown with probably 3 parts brown, and then one part of the rest. And there was a tiny bit of blue on my palette knife, just in case that's helpful for you. And I'm gonna say I need more brown, black, and white. A little bit too yellow. So the brown will cut out the yellow a little bit, and then the black and white will make it less saturated. So more gray and white, more black and white, or more gray. Okay, so that's probably a good dark color, but we're gonna need a bright light color first. So let me grab the rest of this white and then some of this white and create a lighter color. All right, let's put it on here and see what it looks like, because it always looks different on the palette than it does the actual canvas. Okay. Let's see. It looks like it's got too much color, so it needs to be a little bit less saturated. So it needs more black and white is what I'm seeing. This is a good first coat, but I'm thinking that we will adjust. We're gonna adjust this color and then come back to it. Don't forget to do the bottom. I think I'm just going to add some of this white directly to the bottom. So I'm just going to add a little bit of white to this section. And I think I'm actually going to add, I'm going to mix up this color more white, a little bit more black, and I'm actually going to add a tiny bit of this kind of blue color, because I think adding that will help the tone of it cool down a bit. Alright, and while this is wet, I'm going to add just a little bit of this darker color and just kind of blend it in just ever so slightly. Start adding kind of texture to the sand. And this darker color sand does need more black and a tiny bit of that blue that we added to the lighter color. So I'm just going to, some of this is just going to be kind of blended in a little bit, but we're going to add texture in a little bit. So I'm just kind of adding little bits of this, kind of blend it in. With a smaller brush, I am going to go ahead and add a line of this dark, right by the edge of the water. And you can blend it in a little bit if you want, but I would encourage just to have that dark line because that kind of indicates that there's wet sand all the way in there. All right, now if you have some type of fan brush, feel free to get that out, and we can go ahead and add some texture. If you don't have one of these, you can always grab an old brush that is kind of frayed and it will work the same. So this is to add that texture. And if you feel like it's too much, you can always come back with another brush and kind of blend it in a little bit. If you feel like that's necessary. Or you can kind of just like keep moving your brush and it will kind of blend it itself. You're just trying to add texture. I'm just kind of brushing. I have one side that's clean and I'm using to kind of wipe away the dark spots. and then I have another side that I am adding paint with. So I'm kind of rocking back and forth. And then maybe there's some more smooth areas. You can come back with your lighter sand color. You can always come back and add lines if you need to, if there's any other type of texture that you feel like you need to add, like some lines or anything, foot markings. If it helps to kind of step back and see it from a new point of view, go ahead and get up and step back. I know that is helpful. Whenever I'm painting, I kind of get to see it from a 10-foot view almost all the time, because I have a camera that I get to kind of see from, which I know personally is helpful for me. So okay, so now that is pretty much done, you can always come back and add different things if you feel like you need it later. I'm gonna go ahead and add the bright colors of the, when I say bright, it's not just the white of the ocean, which is probably gonna be this the brightest blue color with maybe a little bit of white. And I'm just going to kind of dab it on there. in the different areas. And it's quite far away, so you don't need a whole lot of details. So if I were to zoom in here, I'm really just putting it on the very top. And you can use a smaller brush if you like it. I kind of like the randomness that the larger brush is allowing to happen at the different angles that I'm holding it. You can also dab if you feel like that works better. It's totally up to you how you want to apply it. Okay, now we're going to rinse out all of our used brushes and we are going to transition to the sky. So all the brushes that you've used up to this point, go ahead and rinse them out because we're probably only going to use a couple more brushes for the remainder of this class. One includes our texture brush. So I'm going to kind of work from back to front. I'm going to, without getting it wet, don't get it wet, we're going to do a dry on dry technique. And I'm going to put this one in. It's a little bit more wispy with some fluffies on top. I'm just going to blend some of that in. A little bit of wispy on this side. And we're just going to kind of wiggle our brush back and forth. And it's going to create some fun kind of puffy clouds. And then we're going to do the same thing over here, except a little bit more with brighter stuff going on. We already did a lot of the work in the background for this section. I'm just going to make some of these sections a little bit more brighter by adding some white. And then I'm going to add some white up here. So I'm just going to gently put in some of this. And then once you get the paint on there, the fun begins, because then you get to wipe it off, and then you get to come in here and really blend the edges. You can come in and add a little bit more paint. Okay. And the thing with this is that you have to kind of wait for things to dry as you go, because if you keep working with it, it'll start taking off the paint. So you kind of got to work in little bits at a time. I'm going to go into the light blue, and that's actually going to be the cloud color for this bottom section. So just start playing with your cloud shapes, start playing with your colors, and work on doing background stuff first. Try to look really far in the background before you start doing anything that's closer. There's some cool clouds here in the back here. I'm just kind of letting the brush do what it wants to do. And it kind of gets into a almost like a gray blue. I'm just kind of mixing some of the different colors I have already on the palette to create maybe some darker blues I have here. We're going to try this out. I like this. I'm going to make the top a little bit scattered, bring this down. And make sure that there's random pieces in here, like all clouds aren't the same shapes or sizes. And the closer they get to the sun, the lighter they get, and they're just all different shades and colors, and I feel like there's not really a whole lot of wrong that you can do with clouds except to just not try. See, even just I'm just literally just scribbling on the canvas. There's a couple bright ones up here. So I'm going to use this color, this kind of brighter color, to put in some of these darker ones up here. They're kind of like brightly colored, but they're coming off as like darker. And if they're going in like a certain direction, you can follow that. That's fine. Maybe it's the darker part of one of these other clouds, you know? So I'm just like, if I go to do this one, I'm going to start here, and then I'm just going to kind of go up and down, back and forth, blend it in. Maybe I'll draw it up more. And I think I need some darker, so I'll go into the darker color, and then I'll blend that back into the other color. You can always come in here and put a couple smaller clouds. And if you ever do something that you don't like, you can come back with a cleaner brush, and you can either blend it in a little bit, or you can get rid of it completely. It's up to you. Like, I think this color is fine, it just needs a little bit of white underneath. And again, if you end up not liking it, you can just get a clean brush and brush it away. Alright, I see some other clouds back here behind some of the other ones. So I'm just going to kind of fill in this space so I can come behind with the lighter clouds. And I'm also going to get some pink out now that I can add a little bit of pink to some of these. Oops. So I'm kind of making a peachy orange, a pinky peach that I can add into some of these spots, but it's too dark, so I'm going to add a bunch of white to it. Add some yellow, add some pink, and hopefully lighten it up. Alright, so I'm going to add this pink in a couple other spots. So I'm also going to add it right here. A little bit of pink, and then I'm going to rinse that out and come behind it with some white. And I'm just going to blend that together. I'm just barely touching the bottom of it. And I'll be able to come behind it a little bit more and brighten that up. You can add little bits of cloud on the end. I'm just going to continue with those colors of kind of the pinky peaches. We're just adding all sorts of texture to this one. And I think I'm going to, because of where all of the clouds are, I think I'm going to end up putting my moon a little bit off to the side, I think, which is totally fine. I'm gonna add that pink to this one. This one has a lot of side ones over here. Alright, so I'm going to put some pink ones here, and then I'm going to get some yellow and continue with the yellow, because we're going to end up going pretty white with this. Because there's a couple clouds that go right over all of this, but have kind of some darker elements that we have yet to put in. And adding all of these layers really helps just the depth of it all. Okay, I'm gonna grab a small brush and go ahead and put my moon in. And I'm gonna put it right here. If you need to do like a whole circle, to figure out where it is, that's fine too. You can come behind with a clean brush, clean water, and just get rid of the other line. And that's gonna give a little bit of that kind of, it's gonna give a little bit of the, kind of the lighting element of it. You can always kind of blend it out if you needed to. And I'm gonna come behind with just what I need. And I think I might come in with my liner brush because I can be a little bit more precise. I just realized we forgot to do stars before, so we'll do that. We'll do that next. And you can keep blending it in if you need to. There's technically a dark side to the moon, so if you need to color in the rest of it to get it kind of blended, you can pick one of your sky colors and kind of go based off of that too. I'm just kind of blending the edge of the bright part of the moon into the moon. All right, so that's what my moon looks like. I'm gonna go ahead and very gently get out my my toothbrush for stars. Where is my toothbrush for stars? Oh, there it is. And I'm gonna grab just a little bit of water. I'm gonna mix it in with a little bit of white. And if you need to test this on your palette, feel free to do that so that it's not too wet or too dry. I'm gonna go ahead and just cover up some of the clouds. In reality, we should have done this before we did any clouds, but that's totally okay. Just because you're not doing it in the correct order doesn't mean you have to forego the pretty stars. I'm going to cover up the moon that we just did. And if you get any in the moon, unless it's a fantasy moon, which really is just a crescent, you're going to want to make sure you get out any stars that got in it. So I'm going to do a couple more stars using this method, and then I'm going to put in some bigger stars with the other method. And if you I had a thing I was going to say. I don't remember what I was going to say. Oh, I was going to say, if you get any stars on your clouds, make sure that you just really quickly wipe them away, because I know I think the stars in the reference were actually put in like artificially, because they are on top of the they're on top of the clouds, and that's not usually how clouds work. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the back side of I'm going to use the same mixture that I was using for the other stars, but I'm going to use the back of my handle. And you're going to see less over to the left side. So the majority of your stars are probably going to be over to the right middle to top side where it's darkest. Alright, and make sure that some are close to each other, and then some aren't near any others. Alright, and then lastly, we got to put in some of our dark clouds, there we go, clouds. Let's put in some of our dark clouds. So go ahead and grab your texture brush or cloud brush again. Starting from the back, I'm going to put in some of these slightly darker clouds here in the back. I'm actually using my lightest blue. I'm going to come in with a little bit of the darker blue. And we're just going to keep adding these colors. And then once we get to about this section right here, we're going to switch over to the darkest blue that we've created, and we're going to put in some really dark clouds. I'm going to put some small ones back here. And you're going to leave a little bit of horizon. And they can be random. There's a slightly brown cloud that I'm going to make, so it's going to be the blue plus brown, maybe plus a little bit of white, maybe a little bit of that pink, and that one's going to be over here. I know those colors don't make sense, but I promise you that's what the color is. It's kind of a purpley cloud. I'm just going to blend this black. I put just a tiny bit of black on the edge, and I'm just slowly blending it. Grab a little bit of this yellow and give it to the bottom of this one. Blend it up a little bit. Okay, so now that that one is done, we're gonna go back to our darkest blue. It's almost black practically, but I'm gonna grab a tiny bit of water and put in this big one right here. I'm going to take a different brush, so not the one that I was just using, that's slightly damp. And I'm just going to barely blend in some of the ones that are kind of in the background a little bit more. So I have a little bit more water in my brush so that I can slightly jiggle my brush and it creates a smoother line with a little bit of that water in there. I'm just going to add that texture of all those clouds. You can come back and add those lighter colors in there if you want. Maybe the sun kind of peeking through a little bit. I'm going to come back with a little bit of that pink and add just a little bit of lightness to some of these clouds over here. Maybe a little bit of pink to this dark one right here. Maybe some lighter colors over here. And really anywhere you want. It doesn't, there's not like a set rule for where you have to add this. I really like the pink, so you can even add it in places that don't have pink. Somewhere back here it's, you know, something's reflecting something that's pink, so that's fine with me. That's enough for me to add pink. You can always come back here and add some clouds to put over the pink. Alright, I'm going to come in with a little bit of some watery dark color and put some of this right here because we still haven't put in some of that, so I'm going to go and add that. And there's too much water on my brush, so I have to kind of take it off, brush it out. we're just gonna keep trugging along. I'm going to rinse out my brush, dry it off as much as I can. I'm going to try to add a little bit more of this pinky color to the underside, kind of in swooping motions. And then I'm just gonna full on add white when it gets to the end. I'm gonna add a little bit more pink to my color because I want it to be a little bit more vibrant. All right, I have a couple more details to add. One is a little bit of a dark cloud up here going over this cloud. It's kind of in front. Again, very kind of random and sporadic. That's kind of what makes it look real. And then there's another kind of random one here. Some other random stuff. Alright, and I think that's pretty much it. All right, I think I am done. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and step back and see what I need to do. Okay, I think I'm pretty much good. Just gonna add a couple more like breaks in the the large cloud that's right here. So I'm just using like the sky color to put a couple breaks in the clouds. All right, yeah, I think I'm done. I might add like the tiniest bit of black to the sand, just as like a dark, just a darkening texture. But I think other than that, I'm done. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This one was a lot of fun, and I hope that you learned a lot from this one, especially if you've never done clouds before. I hope that you really enjoyed it, because I love doing clouds. I always think it's so much fun doing clouds. So I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you learned a lot. If you did paint this with me, please go over to my Facebook, where you can share your painting with me. Just go over to my artist community. It's a community group on Facebook. You can just look up SamanthaAndersonArtist /community, or it's Facebook/group/SamanthaAndersonArtist. But in the groups, you can just look up Samantha Anderson Artist, and it should be one of the first ones that comes up. So yeah, I can't wait to see yours and how yours turns out. We will see you in a few weeks for our next painting. But yeah, we'll see you then, same time, same place, and yeah, have a great rest of your evening. Bye guys.